All right. Welcome back to X Squared Radio, second hour. My guests tonight are Suzanne Ross, and then I have Megan and Matthew on. And Matthew's website is the number seven, seal codes, like SEAL, 7sealcodes.com. And Megan's is divinemsm.com. And you can see those links listed there on the YouTube Live. Be sure to visit those. There's a ton of information in there, lots of stuff written, books written. You need to be able to keep up with this because this is the new economy that we're talking about tonight. So welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also probably important to mention.
All right. So I want to try not to make everyone's heads explode right now because there are 100 different ways we can go with this. We have three categories of things we want to talk about, and I think try to make clear to the listeners. One is that we definitely have a broken financial system. They're just chasing it with a computer, trying to stay ahead of it, but it's doomed. It cannot last the way it is. It's lasted the way it is for 48 years. I doubt it will make it another 2 or 3 before everything comes apart. It has to. History is on its side for doing that. So the second thing is that there's got to be some kind of currency reset. If it's national or if it's global, some kind of currency reset needs to happen. And the third thing is there's a layer of ingenious currencies besides dollars and rubles and euros and yuan out there that are manipulated by governments and fixed by corrupt individuals called cryptocurrencies. So I want to cover those three areas. First, let's talk about how doomed the current financial system is.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, a lot of people are highlighting that. We're doing everything we can to prevent that from happening so there's a smooth transition. But there's no doubt that, with the things you mentioned that are going on abroad, there's a desire and a design to, have us fail, of course. And so the petrodollar is one example. The Chinese are now the world reserve currency. And so it is inevitable, and we want to do a transition before we feel the effect of all those changes.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, it isn't impossible. I'm just saying it's highly improbable. History's, as I said, on the side of it collapsing. If we go back to Roman times, there was a Roman emperor who had 2 sons, and he decided to divide the kingdom in half. He gave half to one son and half to the other son, and they ran the 2 kingdoms independently. Well, the first one, of course, had Rome as its capital, and they continued the way that they were on a fiat currency, and they collapsed and blew away in the wind in a very short amount of time. The other son decided to lead the nation from what's known as Constantinople. Today it's Istanbul. And they decided to go back to a gold-backed currency. And they had a stable economy for 1,000 years. 1,000 years. So we have a clear example that a single economy that was on a fiat system can be fixed by going back to gold as a basis for its currency. Now, there's going to be a little bit of upset to begin with, but, it's like pulling your hand out of a bucket of water. It's going to ripple a little bit, but it'll smooth right out. Is that the way that you see as a path forward, is to put the dollar back on gold?
Absolutely. And there's a currency that's already printed. We call it the rainbow currency, which is designed to do just that. And it'll have gold allocations behind it, so that we will transition back into what Kennedy tried to do, of course.
And that's what we've been working on. That's why we're hopeful that there's a solution just around the corner, and we've been working to create that by aggregating the global assets, and then also getting different government leaders and world bankers on board with a new system, and on board with an asset-backed system that will be prosperous for the whole planet.
Well, I have
Indeed.
heard a rumor, and it is unsubstantiated at best, that President Trump is considering either loading the Federal Reserve with his own picks and then basically disemboweling it from the inside, or doing an executive order and doing away with the Federal Reserve, or backing the US dollar with gold. And some of my friends have talked about gold coming in on the onset at about $10,000 an ounce. Now, obviously, the price will have to come down in a very short amount of time, or there'll be hyperinflation. But I think it's totally doable if the dollar is put back on gold, and that can be done from the presidential level, because it was taken off by the presidential level by Nixon.
Exactly. So that is part of the plan with the executive order and the gold back, and those are things that we're working on behind the scenes. So, as well as the elimination, it's really a three-prong approach.
The elimination of what?
The Federal Reserve, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Nothing federal about it and nothing in reserve. You've heard all of those things before. But, we have a rare opportunity because the Federal Reserve has a board. And right now the board, I think, has 4 vacancies. And President Trump can actually fill all 4 of those vacancies, which would give Chairman Powell and 4 board members, which would give President Trump control of the Federal Reserve. I'm sure that Christine Lagarde is not happy about that.
Probably not. And like I was saying before we went on break, is that this administration is doing the heavy lifting. It's just not happening on the House or Senate floor. It's happening with them having to make these maneuvers and take any opportunity they can to push out the old regime and insert allies into strategic positions throughout all levels of government.
Well, I couldn't agree more. We have 3 branches of government, of course: judicial, legislative, and executive. The executive is in good hands. The legislative is the one that's a little bit iffy right now. We had a terribly weighted legislation before the 2018 election, because even though we had control of the committees, because we had the majority of the members of the Senate and the House that were Republican, we didn't really have control because, Paul Ryan worked for somebody way outside of government. Who knows who he worked for? He wasn't following orders at all. He did his own thing. And, of course, we had so many rhinos on the Senate side that President Trump couldn't even get his own cabinet approved. So President Trump focused on the Senate. We managed to get rid of most of the rhinos. About 35 or 36 Republicans either didn't run again or resigned. So the Republican Party was decimated and put back together again, and I think is in much better shape now in the Senate. But in the Congress, the Democrats managed to squeak out a victory by calling up Ballots R Us and having them deliver a bunch of ballots to various precincts, and they pulled it out. But now they're kind of regretting it, because the people that actually won ran unopposed, and they're worthless. They have no legislative skills whatsoever. They're activists. They might as well work for the UN. And I think most of them are going to be one-term congressmen. So the Congress is kind of dysfunctional right now. So when we're talking about the legislative branch, only half of it is working. The other half is a disaster, and it's going to be set aside for 21 months. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Fortunately, President Trump was very, very smart, playing his 5D chess, and he got the Senate in pretty good shape. So now he's got 51 federal judges in place. He's going to fill out his cabinet, and he can make these executive orders have the meat behind them to get the job done. So I totally agree with you that these things are in good hands and good leadership.
Definitely.
It's been a tremendous help for our small organization to have allies in the White House. We've been working on this stuff for, I'd say, decades at this point, to get to where we are today. And without the current administration, we would have been basically at a standstill. So it was very much welcomed by us to have this happen, and it's been a tremendous help. We've made a tremendous amount of progress and are actually seeing all of these, these decades of work come to fruition now because of it.
Yeah, I guess I would have felt a little bit like going over Niagara Falls in a barrel if the other presidential candidate had won. Fortunately, you were fished out of the rushing water, and you were able to keep yourselves moving forward. I think that everybody was reading the tea leaves one way, but I'm a statistician, so I don't really go by tea leaves. I had President Trump winning 311 electoral votes, and all my colleagues thought I was nuts. Of course, they're all a bunch of liberals anyway, but the point I'm trying to make is I surveyed people that own smartphones, and in 2012, of course, there weren't very many smartphones around. People had cell phones, but the software kind of keeping aware of the news didn't really exist that much in 2012, but it really existed in 2016. And President Trump played that card masterfully. And what happened was he won 78% of the vote for people who had smartphones only. He did not win very much of the vote for people that had landlines, because the people that had landlines were getting their news from cable and from satellite. People that had smartphones were getting their news on their devices. And so they were keeping up with the same thing you and I keep up with. Plus, I've been on the air for 14 years, so I try to keep people informed. But most people that listen to alternative media, they were voting for Trump. People that listen to CNN and MSNBC and ABC, they were voting for Hillary. And they thought they were going to win because that's who they were calling at home on their landlines. And they were out of touch. They just missed it. They did not know what was going on. And that's why Trump won.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank God. It's time for a change.
Yeah. So now I want to talk about the cryptocurrency, because we realize that the economic reset's going to happen. We realize that our current economic system that we have right now, it cannot survive. It cannot happen. Just don't even think that 40 years from now we're going to be doing things the same way we do them now, with the Federal Reserve setting the value of our currency and bonds and all this crap that goes on. It's not going to work. It cannot work. The only reason that we're even alive right now is because we're growing, because people are going back to work and money is beginning to move because people are earning it, not because they're taxing it. And but that's not going to last long. 6 years at the best. So now we're talking about cryptocurrencies. First of all, let me ask you, you don't have to give me an exact number. You can round it up to the nearest 100. How many cryptocurrencies are there?
Oh, there's a couple thousand. But there's probably also 1,000 that have failed, So it's an expanding, rapid marketplace. The beautiful thing is the advent of it demonstrates that an alternative system can work. The big, cabal members, they're not worried because it's still just a sliver of the total value of the whole marketplace. But the fact that you can move money in and out of the United States without them blocking it is a real boon.
Sure it is. I mean, with Dodd-Frank out of the way, with Dodd-Frank in place, what they've been able to do is make it illegal for startup businesses to access capital. They can't go to the bank and borrow money to start up an auto shop or a beauty salon or anything, really. Unless you have 2 years of contiguous profits, you can't access capital. So right now in the United States, we're at the smallest level, our smallest not smallest level, but the smallest ratio of startup businesses that we have ever been at in the history of the United States. Because there's no shortage of smart people, I can tell you that. No shortage of entrepreneurs either. They just don't have access to capital, because with Dodd-Frank in place, it makes it illegal for them to access it. So that's got to go away. or these businesses have to have a way to get at some capital that may be offshore, Russian or European or Chinese. I know we've received money from Russians, and we're grateful for it. And the only reason that our company was able to get up and get off the ground and get going because there was damn sure no money in the United States. So how does it happen? How does cryptocurrency bypass this and allow value to flow into startup businesses?
Well, because it doesn't rely on the Fedwire, which is things that pass through that and Homeland Security are scrutinized. And so through this network of servers that represents the crypto net, for lack of a better term, it comes through the internet, and they have no way to monitor that.
Well, I know they try because
While
I know the Securities
right,
and Exchange Commission puts people in jail every month for doing this.
well, they can look at the history of the transactions, through the IP trail and obviously the crypto keys and everything. You can disseminate where money came from. The history can be put together. But while it's happening, through avenues that are not able to be dissected.
Well, yeah, hence the word crypto. But you remember, you have the brilliant financial mind of Maxine Waters, who's now going to be head of that committee. And you have the current, up-to-date, absolute stellar financial record of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's also going to join this committee. So how are you going to escape their genius?
Well, we have a lot of smart people working with us too, and while we're setting things up offshore, we're not inhibited or hindered by that presently. With the expansion of cryptocurrency and everybody getting the wallet and being able to access these funds and spend them off of a card, by the way, so it doesn't, you can hold it on your card and switch it into USD, and it looks just like you're spending it from the bank. They don't have any way of discerning the difference. There are ways to work around any regulation that they have in mind.
Interesting.
And it is like, the cryptocurrency world it's like the final frontier in investments. It's the wild west right now. There's a lot of, coins coming in and coins going out overnight, and there's certainly it's certainly still a volatile market. But we however know that it plays a role in the financial future of the planet. So however that ends up looking in the end, we can't really predict 100%. We just know that it's a part of the solution, and it is a way to introduce asset-backed currencies into circulation again.
Well, I want to check with Suzanne really quick. You're going to take off now, or are you going to stay for another 15 minutes?
Yeah, I got to take my mom back to her facility. But before I leave, I just wanted to chime in and, talk about Megan keeps bringing up, this very positive future for humanity, and, how digital currency is really just, one aspect of that. Freedom from the central banking system, maybe liberation from the controlling supermind matrix, that's been authoritative over all of our financial transactions for far too long. But above and beyond that, and why I wanted to bring up what they'll be doing at the Beyond the Matrix event is because these are two very spiritually inspired people that are on the front lines of what's going on politically and financially around the world. And so these are the kinds of people that we are just so incredibly grateful to have serving in that role, because oftentimes you'll see there's sort of a line between spiritual and political, and these two, and it's what inspires them. I know, with Matthews, for instance, he got a peek inside what was going on in the Pentagon, and, he knew that he didn't want to be a part of that. So, I just wanted to mention that, we're really fortunate to have people that are very dedicated to humanitarian projects, dedicated to making this world a better place to live and breathe, as a force for change in the financial and political arenas. And so at the Beyond the Matrix event coming up, they'll be giving us an update on how things are going in the sovereignty movement. And then also, Matthew is incredibly well versed on the mystery schools, and he has come into some revelations about creation codes, and we'll be doing an activation. The divine Miss M, Megan, she is always so delightful. She is very gifted now at playing the crystal bowls, and I believe she's also harmonizing with them, vocalizing. So we can look forward to that. And then she's going to share a bit about, what it's like to be a world-renowned psychic, and how she is able to tune in to celestial beings and other realms and get very important information for humanity, but also for individuals. And again, it's all just geared to making people's lives better in any which way that they can. So I'm just very delighted that they'll be at this event, and they know that I love them dearly.
Well, we appreciate you and your endless hard work. And
absolutely. And by the way, when we mentioned the websites, there could have been a mention of deepdisclosure.com, because a lot of our secret life and the things that we've been working on that we can reveal that have happened in months past, we do in the podcast. So you can find that the link to the YouTube there from deepdisclosure.com. And as we are able to share more, we will be posting it there too for updates, both through video and text.
Okay, I'm going to put that up on my YouTube Live right now. Let me slide that in there, and where that way people can access it while we're live, or while they're listening to the archive, they can go to these links and see what's going on. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for joining us and for introducing everybody, and for your endless, tireless hard work.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I know that now that you guys are off and running, you're going to have a very lively conversation about all things spiritual, financial, and political.
And you're going to miss it. You're going to have to listen to the archive. It'll be good.
Oh, I'll be listening. Yeah. I just can't be Skyping any longer.
We'll see you later,
Okay,
Suzanne.
love you guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right. I used to always say this, but I need to say it again on my program. You could go to any town you want, any town in America you want, and you'll find the two finest buildings in town are going to be the bank and the church. And strangely enough, they kind of look the same. It's like when you walk in the bank, it's like, shh, there's money here. Just be careful when you walk over there by the vault. Don't yell out. This is a quiet, reverent place. You ever notice that? They have the big columns out in front, and it's kind of got the same shape as the church and everything, except it's the bank. And by the way, the bank doesn't produce anything.
Yeah.
So I wanna let's take this to the next level, because we've talked about structure and infrastructure and the kind of quagmire that the global syndicate has gotten us into by bleeding off the productivity of the United States. And I'm so grateful that President Trump got us out of the TPP and out of the climate accord, whatever that thing was, because it was just a tax. It was just to take the productive, hardworking people of the United States and bleed them of everything they have to support the global syndicate and all the slave trading that they're doing around the world. I'm so glad that we got out of that. But now let's talk about the future, because I don't think there's a computer program. I don't think there is an analyst who can say that this is going to happen. It takes a much higher awareness. So, Megan, I want you to tell us a little bit about that higher awareness, that higher level of knowledge, and how it is brought to us. Oh, we're going to take a break again. All right, hang on for 3 minutes.
Perfect.
We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Okay.
You YouTubers, hang on.